Hello everyone. Thank you, dear friends, for the incredible support you've shown to my channel. It truly means the world to me. Sending you all my love. I'd love it if you could drop a comment letting me know which city you're watching from. For those of you visiting for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a like. By doing so, you'll help grow our creepy community and make it possible for me to share even more stories like these. Tonight's video features 2 disturbing horror stories guaranteed to send shivers down your spine. Our first story takes us to a dark basement, while the second story explores the chilling consequences of a single slipped stitch, revealing a world more sinister than anyone could imagine. Expect some unexpected twists, so stick around until the very end. For as long as I can remember, my parents had one rule that eclipsed all others. Never open the basement door. It wasn't just a casual warning either. My mother's face would stiffen every time I asked why, and my father, usually a man of infinite patience, would raise his voice slightly. You don't go down there, no matter what. Like any child told no, I burned with curiosity. Was it a fear of the dark, a storage of dangerous tools, or was it something more, something bigger? Whatever the secret was, it haunted the corners of our house and lingered in my parents' uneasy footsteps near the basement. I grew up imagining all kinds of things, ghosts, monsters, even buried treasure. But the truth was worse. This is one of those horror stories where curiosity becomes your downfall. It was the night of my 18th birthday. My parents had gone out, leaving me home alone, a rarity. I had spent years silencing that itch in the back of my mind, the urge to open the basement door and see for myself. But that night was different. The quiet house, the creak of wood under my feet, and the dim light of the hallway made it impossible to resist any longer. I approached the door slowly, my heart racing in time with the old clock in the kitchen. The brass doorknob was colder than I expected, almost icy. A strange pressure filled the air, as though the house were holding its breath. It felt like I had just stepped into one of those scary stories I'd read in the dead of night, the kind that made you question every shadow. Turning the knob, I expected resistance, maybe even a locked door. But it opened too easily, revealing darkness, the kind of darkness that seemed alive, pressing against the weak glow of the hallway light. Behind me, the dog whimpered, tail tucked between its legs, staring intently at the yawning blackness. I whispered to myself, what could possibly be so terrifying? And then I took the first step. The stairs groaned loudly, as though they resented my intrusion. I couldn't see far, just a faint outline of the concrete floor below and wooden shelves lining the walls. A faint metallic smell hit me, sharp and unpleasant. I dug into my pocket for my phone and turned on the flashlight. It illuminated the first few steps, and the sight of an old stuffed teddy bear lying on the floor stopped me briefly. It was mine, an old favorite I thought had been thrown away years ago. Suddenly, I felt a chill crawl up my spine like ice water being poured down my back. The teddy wasn't decayed or dusty like I'd expect. It was pristine, as though someone had been caring for it all this time. I took another step, and the beam of light stretched further into the room, revealing jars, hundreds of jars on the shelves. At first, I thought they were filled with dirt or some strange herbal mixtures. My chest tightened when I peered closer. They were filled with hair. Some strands were black, others blonde, fiery red, grey. Every colour and texture imaginable. My legs twitched with the urge to run, but instead, I moved closer. Then I saw the photographs. Hundreds of them pinned to the far wall. Each was a perfect carbon copy of me. Childhood photos, middle school recitals, family vacations. Except there was something wrong. The smiles were too wide, the eyes slightly misaligned. It felt like something straight out of a creepypasta, too disturbing to be real. And then I heard footsteps. The sound was faint at first but grew louder, coming from behind me. Someone, or something, was walking down the stairs. I turned quickly, shining the flashlight up toward the source of the noise, but there was no one there. "Hello," I called, my voice shakier than I would have liked. It echoed too much, bouncing against the walls in ways my brain couldn't quite map. I froze as I heard my own voice respond, mimicking me perfectly. Hello, but this wasn't an echo. I turned around again, and my breath caught in my throat. Standing just beyond the beam of the flashlight was me. This wasn't just a reflection. No, this thing was facing me from the other side of the room, its head tilted slightly, mimicking the movement of a curious animal. I stepped back, and it stepped forward. Its eyes were empty, hollow, and wrong. For the first time, I understood why my parents had warned me. This thing had been waiting. "You shouldn't have come here," it said, its voice a distorted echo of my own. There was something deeply wrong about hearing my voice emerge from somewhere outside myself. Fear anchored me to the spot. "What are you?" I managed to whisper. It grinned, a lopsided, exaggerated smile that made my stomach churn. "I'm you, the better you." It stepped closer, reaching out a hand that looked exactly like mine, but didn't feel right. A subtle twitch or hesitation in the movement that no human could replicate. "You open the door, which means you're done. You're trapped here now, while I..." Its grin widened. "I'll live your life." I backed away, tripping on an uneven step. This isn't real," I murmured. I tried turning toward the stairs, but the darkness pushed against me like molasses, slowing my movement. The doppelganger moved faster, closing the distance between us. I screamed as it lunged for me, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was upstairs in my bed, drenched in sweat. My parents were at the side of my bed, worry etched into their faces. "You opened the basement door, didn't you?" my father asked gravely, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. My stomach sank at his tone. It was a dream," I stammered. "It's not a dream," my mother interrupted. "It's the doppelganger effect. One always watches, waiting to take the place of whoever opens that door." But their words didn't fully settle in until I saw the mirror across the room. My reflection blinked a second before I did. They told me it wasn't the end. And now, every time I pass the basement door, I hear faint whispers, my voice, calling me to come back. But I won't. Not again. Horror stories have a way of pulling us into the unexpected. where reality takes a sharp, eerie turn. This is one of those creepy stories, a tale you'll think about long after the lights go out. Perhaps even as one of your new favorite bedtime scary stories. I often wonder how I survived my childhood without fear. Odd, given the world of unknowns I lived in. You see, I was born blind. My mother had always been my champion and my caretaker, guiding me through life with patience and kindness. Her voice was my light, her hands my map of the world. She described sunsets I couldn't see, held my hand when crossing streets I couldn't sense, and read bedtime creepy stories aloud to me, creating vivid snapshots in my imagination. But nothing could have prepared me for the horror that came with true sight. All my life, darkness had been my constant companion, an oddly comforting cloak, where my other senses sharpened to compensate. My mother would often say I had the hearing of a bat and the intuition of a fox. This comfort cocooned me, and I rarely wished for sight, even when strangers pitied me for it. My mother always explained this oddity kindly. "You were born with something unique in your eyes," she'd say. "Stitches keep them closed to protect you." I never questioned it, nor the doctors, she assured me, had recommended this peculiar solution. Why would I? My mother's words had always been truth. The event itself was mundane but seismic in impact. I was sitting by the window after dinner, fingers tracing the delicate glass. A gentle breeze wafted in through the cracks, carrying the distant scent of fresh rain. I turned my head sharply at the sound of a creak from the nearby floorboards. The slip of a stitch wasn't something I sensed immediately. It happened without ceremony, like loosening the string of a balloon. What I did feel was the blade of light slicing into one eye. A sharp, narrow beam, a ray of light, pierced the shroud I had known my whole life, forcing my unused sense awake. It burned, not just physically, but mentally, shattering a barrier I hadn't even realized was holding me back. And then I saw her. Through my watery vision, the hazy silhouette of my mother emerged. The air shifted. Her comforting presence that I had always relied upon no longer felt safe but foreign. She wasn't just startled by the light touching my pupil. She was angry. "Close it. Don't..." Her voice cracked, almost shrill, but I couldn't close it. The reality of seeing, actually seeing, was too intoxicating. I blinked against the brightness, struggling to plaster together mismatched bits of sight and memory to form a cohesive picture. And then I froze. My loving mother, whose voice had always resembled a gentle lullaby, looked monstrous in the brief flickers my emerging sight afforded me. There was something grotesque about her face, the sagging flesh, the too close sharpness of her teeth. The cracks in the voice that had comforted me were now exposed as tremors of panic and dread. Was this my beloved mother? Was this truly the woman who had magnified safety into my cocoon of darkness? I closed my eye, willing myself to rewind, to return to what I knew. But curiosity, no dread, compelled me to open it again, hoping the momentary glimpse had been a trick of light. It wasn't. If anything, she looked worse the second time. I mustered the courage to speak. What's wrong with you? Why do you look like that?" Her laughter came, a sharp, unnatural cackle that echoed through my bones. "You shouldn't have seen. It wasn't time yet." "Time? Time for what? My voice quivered. Her response was soft but chilling. To understand what you really are, what I've protected you from your entire life. The air seemed heavier, the shadowed room more oppressive, as the truth unfurled. She spoke in fragmented sentences, as though choosing what to reveal. You were never supposed to have sight, not like others. The stitches, they weren't to protect you from the world. They were to protect the world from you. Her words made no sense, yet they made too much sense at the same time. Had I been something to fear? Something unnatural? She continued, her voice steeped in desperation now. I thought I could keep it from you, hide it away, give you a life close to normal. But light changes everything. I stumbled backward, my head spinning. My sight, still impaired but growing stronger, now revealed a room I didn't recognize, the contours feeling wrong. Too many sharp angles, shadows that weren't right. I know you don't understand yet, she said, but you will. The crescendo came when I backed into the heavy wooden armchair by the window. My fingers fumbled, palming the backrest, searching for something, anything that felt familiar. The window, the glass, the rain-soaked breeze. My sanctuary. I turned toward her, ready to demand answers, to demand normalcy. But she lunged first, not with malice, but with purpose. She cradled my head gently, her shaking fingers brushing against the stitches on my closed eye. Please, just close it. Don't make this harder than it has to be. And then I felt it. Something strange crawled within me, waking with a small flame of exposed light. That realization brought fear to her frantic hand. But before I could speak or move further, she whispered, I was never your mother. My hand jerked to rip away the remaining stitches, desperate for clarity, for truth. The air shifted dramatically as both eyes opened wide. For the first time, I truly saw everything. The room, her, myself. The real monster was me.